Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse, the Tuesday, May 20th edition of the Daily Pulse. I'm your host, Teddy Panos, coming here from the WellPoint Studios here in beautiful, historic downtown Lowell. I'm going to spare you today. It's not going to be a Trigger-em Tuesday in the sense that I'm here alone and I'm doing my best to annoy folks out there, but I can't guarantee you some folks out there won't be triggered because my guest co-host today, none other than former City of Lowell Elections Director, former Commonwealth of Massachusetts election official, former Chief of Staff for a United States Congressman.
All kinds of stuff.
And I swear you probably were in the CIA at some point and you know all these dirty secrets that I'm going to get you to spill one of these days.
Nothing to spill, but I admit I did interview with them.
You did it?
Yeah.
Marty, Laurie, and I, we've got this theory working.
Yeah.
And one of these days, I'm going to get the two of you in
You
together.
work with a lot of them, and you worked with a lot of NSA people, so you learn, congressional aides that have too, so. Yeah.
So you did interview with the CIA? Mm-hmm. All right.
Oh, yeah, long time, right here in Lowell.
Okay.
Yeah, 𝐞𝐞𝐠 Diner. Unbelievable.
Out on right next door to the original Market Basket Supermarket.
Yeah, I wish I could tell the story, but
why can't you now?
The guy was.
Are there people still alive? Is this
probably? And the guy that I interviewed with was a second in charge to Colby at the time. I think the CIA director, and believe it or not, he was from Lowell. And what was
really?
I will tell you this thing that was funny. I walk into the diner, and Mr. 𝐞𝐞𝐠 there. It was like around 11 o'clock, so nobody was really there yet. It was like a Wednesday morning. And he's obviously part of it too. Because I walk in, I see this guy way down the end with the paper like this, so I couldn't see his face. And I look at him, and he just goes, he knew right away. I go, okay. So,
all right.
Then I made I'll tell you one thing.
Forget the Epstein files.
I will tell you one thing.
We want the Pappas CIA files.
I did make a real mistake that I didn't know. I think they were setting me up. Was I said to the guy, he goes, "Oh, you related to so and so, state rep from Sherburne, Mass, down that area." Same last name. He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, that's my nephew." He goes, "Nice guy." He goes, "Well, I can't say what he said about him on this. I mean, it wasn't really nice. He's an effing, you know what?" I go, "Okay, what a way to start off that thing." So, there you go.
All right. We're one of these days, I'm going to get you to open up. I'm going to bring you in with Marty, Laurie, by the way, because I want to hear the two of you opine about these national and international things.
Marty's good.
I just want to sit back and learn.
Yeah, Marty's
the two of you.
Marty does. He knows. Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
We got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. The future of the former UMass Lowell Linden Conference Center is beginning to come into focus. Yeah. Big story with some new revelations on InsideLowell.com. Check it out if you haven't already.
Going viral.
I want to talk a little bit about the situation with former President Joe Biden. And now, I don't know if the cancer diagnosis was meant to kind of distract from the Tapper and Ferguson book, showing that he was basically incapacitated by the time he left the White House. But we need to talk about that because now folks are starting to ask some real questions, even some folks on the left side. And if we have a little time, I want to talk a little bit about that foreign policy trip that the president took last week, which was huge on so many fronts. And I want to ask your expert, former CIA interviewee at the very least, advice on what he's trying to accomplish here. We're going to get to all of it with Greg Pappas and who knows what else. First, I want to thank our Daily Pulse sponsors. We start, as always, with Ray Booten, licensed realtor, Massachusetts and New Hampshire, certified appraiser in both states as well. You can find him online at realestaterayBooten.com. Thanks as well to our friends at WellPoint. WellPoint, the only health plan offering healthcare benefits exclusively to Massachusetts GIC members. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, WellPoint. We've got some other sponsors as well to thank, but I want to kick off the discussion here with Greg Pappas on this, kind of a makeshift Trigger-em Tuesday, because now they're going to have two people, I think, triggering them. But the big news yesterday regarding the City of Lowell and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Maura Healey, you're a friend, right?
Well, yeah,
You've
friend
known her
as
forever?
Yeah, I've known her. I knew her when she was Assistant Attorney General under Martha. You have coffee downstairs in the building all the time,
All right.
And then she became AG.
So her office sent out a press release in the afternoon yesterday announcing that all the migrant hotels were going to be shut down. And we had already known in Lowell they were going to shut down Lowell's as of June 30th. What was unanswered was what are they going to do between July 1st and December 31st? Because they still have a lease on it. And I kept hearing they're going to convert it to a different type of shelter. Well, in that press release yesterday, and again, InsideLowell.com, the story is there about the Inn and Conference Center and the plans for it. The governor's office announced that it would transition to what they call a rapid track shelter and a CSR shelter.
Is that a thing, or you just created it?
So I've been told these are 30-day things. 30 rapid track shelters are 30 business days, doesn't count Saturdays and Sundays. You get people in, you get them out quickly. CSR, same type of thing.
Are they going to ask IDs this time? Because 60% of the last time they didn't ask for IDs.
Who's going to be in them?
Yeah.
How many people are going to be in them? I couldn't get an answer because I did reach out to a few folks. I had it confirmed for me that not only were they going to continue to use it as a shelter through December 31st, 2025. But here's the kicker, Lowell. They're negotiating to extend it another year.
There you go.
Into the end of December 2026. So when I reached out to the governor's office, they put me in touch with Kevin Connor from the 𝐿HLC Housing and Livable Communities
that's a new
department.
There was an old department. They changed the words to make it sound better.
And when I said to him, I said, look, I'm reporting that there's discussions and negotiations going on to keep this thing as a shelter through December 26th. His response to me was comical because it shows you exactly, like government people can't just say yes and no like normal people. They have to be government people.
That's once they get the groupthink training, which I walked out on. Even in Washington, I walked away from it. I said, I'm not listening to this groupthink.
So this is the quote he provided, InsideLowell.com. That timeline is not inaccurate to report.
There you go.
So I had to look at it twice with my old eyes. I'm like, is he telling me this isn't accurate? Because I had it confirmed by a couple of pretty good sources.
You should write poetry. That guy's pretty good.
That timeline is not inaccurate. So I'm thinking, okay, it's got my confirmation. But then I read a little further down, and he said, I just want to give you a little bit more information about the ways the state is working with the city of Lowell and things are upcoming. So he further went on, sent me some bullet points. One, 𝐿HLC Secretary Ed Augustus will meet with City Manager Golden and his team next Wednesday, May 28th.
Former State Senator Ed Augustus.
I didn't know that till you told me. To begin discussions about the long-term plan for the Lowell ICC and how it helps achieve the city's housing goals. In other words, the ICC, if you're thinking it's going to become a hotel, no. If you're thinking it's going to become any kind of commercial entity, maybe first floor, maybe a first floor commercial entity, right? And then housing above. Isn't that kind of the model that everybody uses?
Where? I haven't seen that.
Well, they have the bank. Isn't that whenever they build a new building now, that everything is like
they try to, but it's usually half. Yeah, there's one in Boston, and it's a half-lane bank. You walk in as one person, and there's all ATM machines. Okay. So it's not really the real thing, you know. But
there will be discussions next Wednesday, and I did reach out to Manager Golden. Did not want to talk. He wants to talk about this with the city council. All of this stuff was kind of unraveling yesterday. People were telling me they didn't even see the press release. I talked to somebody from UMass Lowell, said we did not get that press release.
There you go.
So this is all unfolding, but the UMass Lowell Inn and Conference Center will continue to be some kind of a shelter, a more short-term stay shelter, rapid track as they call it. And
only for illegals?
I don't think it's going to be for illegals. I think it's going to, because they're giving housing for the illegals to find housing. Now they got to work everybody else, so they've got backlog.
I was just curious.
That's my hunch, but nobody's confirming any of this. But it will be through the end of 2026. Forget this December 31st, 2026. Then a couple of other interesting bullet points came in that my conspiratorial mind started spinning here. 𝐿HLC and city officials will also discuss how the former district courthouse, 27 Hurd Street, and the former Superior Courthouse, 360 Gorham Street, can be utilized for future housing development.
State property,
So current state property, nobody obviously wants to develop them. How are you going to turn a courthouse into a commercial venture, housing or whatever, unless the state is supplying the money, right? Get a private developer to the building, the state incentivizes them with all sorts of money and grants. And now you got housing. So we're now learning those two courthouses. The plan is to make them housing. Can they pull them off? I don't know. He then goes on to write, the city of Lowell is a strong partner in creating housing opportunities for its residents, including full compliance with the MBTA communities law, and investing in housing in Greater Lowell is a priority for the Healey-Driscoll administration. Last bullet point. EOHLC has awarded $12 million to 5 projects via the Housing Development Incentive Program to create 208 total units in Lowell since the start of the Healey-Driscoll administration. It's been a number of projects that have been announced. I believe that Merrimack Street building, they used to, the old Woolworths building, that's gotten a grant to make housing. There's a bunch of other buildings. There's stuff going on Appleton Street. All of these properties. Go to InsideLowell.com. Look at housing grants. Google search.
Are they low-income housing, though?
A lot of it is market rate, mixed market rate, a lot of the above.
That will be good then.
But as I read those 4 bullet points,
you know what that means.
That to me was, so a way for the governor and her people to say, all right, Lowell, I know you're going to bitch. I know you're going to push back. You want your ICC. You want you have all these dreams of commercial use. Just remember, we have given you $12 million already. We're going to work to turn your courthouses into housing, taxable, I assume, property. And we own the ICC. Now, UMass owns it, but what is UMass? It's a state agency. So we're the ones with the big pocketbooks. We're going to decide what's going to happen with those buildings.
Plus, what else?
And you've got to grin and bear it.
What about the river?
Oh, you mean the $273 million work bridge that's going to be $300 million by the time all is said and done?
That's right.
Plus, we're helping to fund this. So, in other words, Lowell, stop complaining and do your best Kevin Bacon imitation from Animal House.
There you go.
Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another? Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Thank you, sir. May I please have another? Just bend over and you're going to get smacked. And you know what? You're going to like it.
That's how they do stuff. I mean, that's the federal government's done it for years, and Trump's doing it, and they're mad at him. But they always did it that way. You don't get the money unless you do what they want.
You want our money. You all love when we come in with a check for your housing on Appleton Street and everywhere else. Well, we want this at the Union Conference Center. And I'm going to be curious to see how the entire city council react to it. I was speaking text messages last night and this morning with one of the counselors who read the story and was really upset. And I can get the upset about the Inn and Conference Center, right? But if you look at it, are you prepared? Is Lowell in a position to gentrify to the level where we can do what some of these MBTA towns are doing? Tell the government, I don't care if you blackmail us with withholding funding. We don't need you. Lowell can't do that.
No, they can't.
We're so far down that path.
Well, cities can't in general. Towns have a bit less money, but they still get the road money and the school money. But it's going to happen in Drake in a couple of weeks at the town meeting. I think people in Drake, they're going to go in and vote down the MBTA thing.
I agree with you.
And put the town and the selectmen are going to be sitting there going, now what do we do?
Well, I mean, Tewksbury is doing the same thing right
Milton
now.
did it.
Milton, many other communities are saying, keep your money if we need to. They're calling their bluff. But Lowell can't. The way I see it,
you're right.
Lowell cannot afford to call the state's bluff on this. And I think as I read that email reply from Kevin Connor, the communications director for Ed Augustus. He's saying, hey, you want our money, you're going to do it. Oh, by the way, you want to get mad at the university? How about all that link money you're getting? We're putting money into the link project, which is your commercial development to some degree. And one of the councils said to me, well, we could vote against the tax, the tax increments and, the TIF agreements and all this other stuff. I'm like, so you're going to vote no on a $800 million development because of a building that's been dead and buried for years now? I mean, let's be honest.
It's going to be,
That thing was not a vibrant hotel in its last few years, and it was never going to be a hotel again.
No. It's just not. And the thing is, I mean, I look at, it's funny what you're talking about. The cities are so dependent on state and federal aid, more so than the towns, but still a lot. When I was working, I know it was 45 years ago, but you go back to the House of Representatives back then, and local aid was like 5 to 7% of the budget. That was it. Now it's like, what, 70, 80%? Some cities? 65%?
Well, if you look at Lowell's education funding, as we saw the school budget controversy play out, the state is basically funding our education system.
That's what I'm saying. If you and they separate them to make combine them. You see it's just how it's gone because that's how they handle economic decline and stuff like that. With whatever they blamed it on the malls and they blamed it on the bus strike in Lowell, and they blame every city does something like that. But. The other thing too, ever since I was a kid, they were always dealing with the low income housing thing. And I'm just like, I never even asked the question, something I don't know. I know they say they have a plan, but what is the low income, where is the level of low income housing needed? How much do you need? What is the number? How many people need housing? Are you going to have more low income housing in the city of Lowell than you have people that live here to pay taxes?
Yes, because the suburbs won't. But fighting back on.
And then the Section 8, I always said years ago, they should put an S8 on every building that accepts Section 8. You'd pass out if you drove through Lowell after that. You'd pass out. There'd be like every other house. I'm just telling you. Because I saw someone when I was working for Justin. I go, oh my God, nobody's paying rent. It's all being paid for by the federal government.
So,
I guess it's better than sending bombs to the Ukraine. I don't know, but still.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we're going to rebuild Ukraine, we might as well spend a little bit of that money here in our communities.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I don't want. So, look, I want to see the type of housing that brings people who have disposable income come in. To me, so is there a path? Can Manager Golden or whoever's handling these negotiations? Can they forge a path? Can they convince the Healey-Driscoll administration to do this affordable home ownership, or what I'm going to guess is going to be affordable condo ownership, right?
Yeah.
In the ICC, in the courthouses, much like the old Shaughnessy Terrace, which is those are actual homes, single and two-family homes.
Right. They tore down the buildings over there when I was a kid. Yeah.
But what you do is if you give people of lower wealth, lower income, the chance to own a home, build their credit, then sell it, use that as a down payment, you start to build that generational wealth.
That's the idea.
If the ICC is used for that, if the courthouses is used for that, then it's a win for Lowell. If it's used as a long-term shelter or a glorified shelter and basically all low-income housing, now it's a problem. But again, Lowell, I turn to Kevin Bacon.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
The thing with the low-income housing issue is, like you said, that type of thing. You don't want to keep putting people into a situation where they don't see any desire to get out of it. And that's been the problem. There's generations. When I was a kid, you had 3 years in those places, like the veterans. You may save your money, then you went out and bought a house. 3 years, you were out. 5 at the most. Now it's like a generation after generation. That's not just. It's not good for the city. It's not good for the individual.
It's not good for these people.
For the people,
exactly.
You're keeping them.
Their people, their families, the kids, the grandkids who are growing up
trapped. They feel that thing, Steve. And if that's what Tom's going to do, Manager Golden could. Tom has experience enough as a former legislator, and he knows how to deal with Mara. And I know he knows Ed Augustus. And Ed Augustus isn't a bad guy, I will tell you. He's a pretty smart guy. He's not crazy. But I think Tom would be able to work something like that, yeah.
But here's the thing. So I'm pretty sure, because Tom Golden has sat in that chair and said many times, he's talked about affordable homeowners. I didn't know what it was. And then he pointed out the Shaughnessy Terrace example.
That was the thing. Him and Steve Pangiatakis did that. That was supposed to be a model for the rest of the Commonwealth. And then,
It kind of died off. But, do you, instead of the actual houses, the individual houses, do you do it as condos in a big thing? Can it work there?
I'm sure it can.
He's going to push for that.
Yeah.
Is that what the governor wants, though? Because ultimately, look, right now the university owns that building, and they've got a big debt service.
Right.
And you can criticize Marty Meehan and the university all you want. Their job is not to make the city of Lowell more prosperous. Their job is to make the university a better university.
Right.
The city of Lowell needs to make their elected and appointed officials in Lowell need to make Lowell a better place. Right. And sometimes those two goals are going to butt heads. Right. So everybody needs to do what they need to do. governor controls the big purse strings here.
Yeah.
Can she be convinced? Is there a viable path forward for
Now that you
affordable
explain it
homeownership?
that way, I really think Tom's relationship with her, Tom, Manager Golden, yeah, I think so. That's the good thing about people being friends first, and then, you walk in the room, you already know each other. It does help out. It really does help out. Like if you're the governor and you, I swear I shut that down. I don't know. Sorry about that. That's very interesting because if anybody, Maura's when she came to City Hall, she knew Tom like she knew me, and Kim does. I really think that friendship relationship is big. We don't have that with the current, legislature. Well, Rod knows her and Ed knows her a little bit, but Rodney knows her better because he was around longer, like back when my time period. But when you have that personal relationship, you can make stuff happen. And if that's the direction Tom goes, it can really be a good thing. I was always hoping you'd see that, like the courthouse turn into condos like that. And
they kind of spelled out, which I was shocked that they sent me all that information. But it tells me that they're feeling some heat. They're feeling some pushback from the delegation about this. Maybe they're feeling pushback from Manager Golden on this. He told me he wanted to talk to the council first, and then we'll try to get him on here. But if that is the plan, I think it's okay, and it might be a win-win. I did say I did have a conversation with a member of the delegation who didn't want to go on record, and I said I forwarded the email response from the EOHLC office, Housing and Livable Communities. I said, sounds to me like they're saying, you want money for the Rourke Bridge, you want money for XYZ,
right?
You will shut up, you will grin and bear it, and you will say, as Kevin said,
there he goes again.
Have another.
Old Animal House. There you go.
Thank you, sir. May I
great
have
movie,
another?
great scene. But and the delegation, the response from the person in the delegation was, that's exactly what they're doing.
I mean,
to us.
she'll deal directly with Tom and the council. I mean, she'll work through Ed too, and probably Rodney. I mean, because they know how to, but she knows him, and that's a big plus. I can see that happening because of that relationship. Yeah.
So we're a little more optimistic.
Oh, I am now. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
And that's how you should do it, because I just really, I mean, even as a kid, I was, like I said, we were in Shaughnessy Terrace. My father's a veteran. For some reason, I knew at 3.5 years old when we were going, that it was not a good thing. There was something weird, you know what I mean? And over the years, it bothered me seeing people stuck in that stuff year after year after year, because it's not a home,
Right.
And people
neither
should
is a hotel.
Yeah, and I'm talking about like the like Bishop Markham and all those. They're not really. You got to give something to the people to give themselves, to lift themselves up and let their spirit become human beings.
Hopefully.
Yeah, and I think that's.
I'm hoping that's the end game. I'm hoping that
sure.
The manager has said those words: affordable home ownership over and over and over again. Whether it's Smith Baker Center, whether it's Appleton Street, wherever. If he's able to pull that off,
he would.
And
I'm telling you,
I am thinking.
I have total confidence because I know his relationship with her, and I know how she is. She'll listen to him.
So here's the other reason to be somewhat optimistic.
Yeah.
Maura Healey says she's running for re-election.
Yeah,
and with each and every passing day, it becomes more and more likely that not only is she doing that, but she maybe wants to use that as a springboard to the 2028 Democratic presidential nomination, right?
Or U.S. Senate.
Or
I think Markey's gone, and
he's up in 2026.
Is it 2026?
I keep trying to tell the auditor to run
Diana.
I think she trounces him, and I think he drops out.
Is it 26 he's up? I thought it was
2026 he's up. But
she could also take a shot at that and leave it to Kim.
Yeah. So how does this affect Maura Healey's re-election effort in Lowell? I've heard people tell me she's done in Lowell. She's done in Lowell. But I look and I'm like, well, Tara Hong was here last week. We need more housing. We need more housing. To the point where he signs on to the Yes in God's Backyard Act. State Rep Vanna Howard over and over again has talked about housing. She wasn't even that upset. She offered the least amount of pushback in the delegation for the ICC becoming a migrant shelter. So
and I would like to ask her again too, how much housing do we need? You keep saying you need more. Do you know what the number is? I want to get numbers from these people. They don't know the number. They just reiterate.
Build.
Right. But the point is, I just think that if this thing does go through and if this get put together, it'll be years down the line before it has any impact on the city. So it won't affect Maura at all.
Is the creation of more
Political,
housing,
yeah.
is this the housing bond bill from last year that included ADUs, the MBTA community,
Right.
and now kind of this stuff here? Is that a winning or a losing issue for the Massachusetts electorate, which is not like the rest of the world?
Well, they have to.
Most of the country.
They have to find a way to. I mean, businesses are leaving the state in record numbers, so they have to find a way to get businesses to stay and come back. You got to have jobs somewhere. And there are a lot of younger kids who will move into a city like Lowell or Lawrence or whatever to get on the train and go to Boston to work, you know? But even Boston's losing, shedding businesses. I have a friend that owned 5 restaurants, five pretty much 4 to 5 star restaurants. He lost 4 of them because of the COVID thing. And actually, I think he sold the last one, and he's now a chef at a big hotel. But I don't want to mention his name, but people would know him. He's very big in Boston. But there's nothing going on. I mean, Copley Square, it's quiet, and they just planted, the mayor doing out, planted the new trees, and two or 3 days ago, somebody went down and chopped them down. I mean, that's Copley. I mean, really?
Dude, they did the same thing at South Common.
So see,
Somebody just vandalized the trees.
There you go.
The saplings.
You can't make this stuff up. What we're dealing with for human beings now, but you know, it's crazy. But I mean, you got to get more jobs. But the thing of the housing thing, and they put that all together, that won't even have an impact on Morris anything. You'd have that.
I think
take
it's
years
a wash.
Well, it won't. Nobody will know. It's just going to be the few elected officials. It's going to be years down the line. I mean, it's going to be years down the line for it has an impact. But it's still a good thing for Lowell. Hope she does do it. And Tom, she works with Tom on that.
If
But it
all
won't help
that
it politically,
stuff is
yeah.
going to become housing,
Yeah.
That would be the best case scenario. Can the manager pull it off?
Yeah.
Is that what the governor's envisioning, or is she envisioning, all right, all these other communities are pushing back against me in Tewksbury, Drake, or whatever. I could fight legal battles with them all day, or I could tell Lowell, Lawrence, Haverhill, Brockton, and whatever that they're just going to have to say, thank you, sir. There you go. You're tuned into the Daily Pulse here on this Tuesday, May 20th, 2025. It's not a Trigger 'em Tuesday, but I told you we might trigger some folks. Joined by Greg Pappas. We'll get into some national affairs that always have trickle-down effects here in Lowell as well. First, let me thank my Daily Pulse sponsors. We start with Ray Booten, who is a licensed realtor, certified appraiser in both Massachusetts and New Hampshire. So if you're looking to buy or sell a home, a business, or a commercial property, find him online, realestaterayBooten.com. Thank you as well to our friends at WellPoint. At WellPoint, your whole health is their whole point. Washington Savings Bank, banking that feels like home. Make the switch now to Washington Savings Bank. TMI Properties, quality and value at every price point. Find your perfect space with TMI. Mahoney Oil, providing warmth and protection to Greater Lowell, Southern New Hampshire since 1925. The Greater Lowell Community Foundation, improving the quality of life in our communities through strategic, impactful philanthropy. Francis E. Preventure Insurance, the agency Greater Lowell is counted on to protect its most valuable assets since 1982. And by the Massachusetts Pirates, bring all the hard-hitting action and excitement of arena football to the Mill City Pirates. Next game, Thursday, May 29th. They got a bye week this weekend. Thursday night, rare Thursday night game at the Tasongas to Center against the Jacksonville Sharks, I believe is the team they're playing. Greg Pappas is with us here in the WellPoint studios. Speaking of Sharks, the Sharks are circling in Washington, D.C. around the former Biden administration. And more with each and every revelation. First, it was a book about the president basically being... Was it physically incapacitated? Was it mentally incapacitated? Was it both? That sent shockwaves through D.C., even in some of the more liberal media outlets. Now, late Friday night news dump. Oh, yeah, the president, by the way, has the most advanced form of prostate cancer. It's in his bones.
Which you have to have minimum of 7 years. It shows up 7 years ago.
So I'm not a doctor. I only play one. I only play one on podcasts. But a number of medical experts are now coming out and saying, no way the man who has his own personal physician and access to the greatest healthcare on the planet, it wasn't known that he had cancer before this. Well, which begs a lot of questions, Greg.
Well, he actually said it and slipped it a couple of years back.
He did. He did.
But the thing is, I was talking to some doctors, and there's some doctors online said, if you have advanced... You had it 6 or 7 years ago. which means it would have shown up the first day he became president. He was running, and he had it, and he knew about it, and he knew about it.
Before
And he knew about it. That's
right?
why we now know why he was going to Delaware every weekend to sit in the basement. There was stuff going on that they didn't want anybody to see.
We're hearing that, and by the way, this isn't just Fox News theorizing this. Now you're starting to see Van Jones, the guy who cried the night of that June 27th debate at what he saw on the stage, saying this: the Democratic Party may not recover from this scandal for a long time.
Well, that's not
hiding his mental incapacity and other physical stuff.
Well, do you remember why the guy didn't prosecute him for having records when he was vice president, classified records? Can't prosecute Trump or any president. But why did they prosecute Vice President Biden? Do you remember why?
Yeah, because he said he's a feeble old man that no jury will vote to convict.
He was the words were mentally incompetent. So he couldn't prosecute him. That was what, the second year?
Yeah.
Second year of his presidency, mentally incompetent. And that's why he couldn't prosecute him.
And you remember all the media types who are now coming forward with their quote unquote revelations denied it all. They went after her. Her was actually the most compassionate person.
Right. That's what I'm talking about.
He treated Biden with compassion, saying, I'm not going to prosecute this guy. Meanwhile, everybody else kept trotting him out into public appearances so he could fall up and down stairs, fall off bicycles, fall off a stage, wander around not knowing how to get up. I mean, some of you are stupid. I'm sorry to insult you, but some of you are stupid. You didn't believe what your own eyes were telling you, or you didn't want to believe.
They didn't want to believe, yeah.
But most people knew. Some were devious enough that they told you, don't believe you're lying.
Well, that's why they lost so many people from the party in that time period. Like I said, I was wrong, not 300,000, 289,000. I rounded up to 300,000. Think about that in 4 years. In Massachusetts, go to another state, it was probably, it was huge. And that's what was going on even with the people I was working with in the State House who were longtime Democrats like us. Stop lying to us. I mean, I had a former rep stuff. I don't want to say her name. I go, he's come on, let's stop it. Stop saying that. People are walking away in droves and you're pissing everybody off. The public figured it out. Yeah. They're not stupid. The public is not stupid. Then I'm just telling you, there's been a grand jury in session in Washington for 2 months now, and wait till you see the things that are going to come out of that. Oh my God. There'll be no.
Okay, there's been a grand jury in Washington. Is this Greg Pappas who knows things in form?
There's no way.
Guessing.
Everything that Patel and them were talking about is already a guarantee. They set one up probably within 30 days of them being in office. And all the stuff they're telling you they're fine. Look what they said yesterday. They're telling you right out that they found the records Fast and Furious in Chicago. Yesterday they came out and said, we now know who was using the presidential auto pen.
Okay.
That's totally illegal. You can't sign bill. Even the governor, you have to have. There's laws on how you use that. The president has to,
So these are the questions that are starting to come up now.
They're going to indict these people, I'm telling you.
A lot of folks said, who was running the White House? It's clearly not Joe. He's not well. Right. Now we know. Now we're starting to hear the stuff, the behind-the-scenes revelations from the aides and whatnot.
You can't make executive decisions.
So he's not making those decisions. We then find out about the auto pen, which, by the way, I didn't know there was such thing as an auto pen. I assumed everything that was signed by the president's pen. No. So for those who don't know, what is the auto pen?
Well, it's the first thing, and I think the governor has one too. It's usually and maybe even the treasurer or secretary, Billy might have one. If you're going to have a mass mailing, it's not usually for legal documents. It's supposed to be for like if you're going to do like a mass mailing to the retirees or something like the state treasurer, when she first gets into office, she signs her name on the auto pen and it copies her handwriting on the machine. And now the machine can reproduce her signature perfectly, right? So when you got to do 200,000 mailings with her signature on, the aides will stand there while the treasurer, somebody has a code and you put the paper in and you sign all the treasurer looks at, or the governor or president looks at the thing, say, yeah, that's what I want to say. And then they put like load it with 200,000 sheets of paper and it signs the signature. And then they take it downstairs and it goes into the folding machines and goes in the mail. So with the presidential auto pen, is there some kind of regulation that says if you're going to use it, the president has to be the one that presses the button? I always thought there were two keypads, one where he puts the code in or she, and one where the other person does. And there's only one person that's supposed to be able to use it.
So kind of like the nuclear football, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was always told.
I would assume that if you've got this thing that can emulate the president's signature roaming around, you've got, you're not going to let just anybody use it. The president has to use it. So there was,
And I'm surprised they did it for pardons. Those are easy. There's 20 of them. 30
they
of them.
auto-penned pardons.
Well, it's funny that what's his name's wasn't auto pen. Hunter, his son.
Was Fauci's auto-penned? Please tell me it was.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
So,
But why wasn't Hunter's auto pen? Because he knew, Dad, you're signing that. What is it? I don't know. Sign it. Just okay, fine.
Can these things be challenged?
I don't see how anything. I've learned in courts, going to court with Galvin, you challenge anything can be challenged.
So now I want to go back a few months. They started talking about Biden's mental facilities, and they asked Speaker Johnson, the Speaker of the House, did you see any signs? And he was trying to dance around it.
Right.
But he did tell a story of how he was trying to talk to the president, and the staff, the aides, were blocking the Speaker of the House. They were making it difficult. He finally got his time, and he said to President Biden's credit, he said, look, no. Once he saw me, he said, no, he's coming in, he's talking to me, and Biden welcomed him, and they started talking. And Speaker Johnson tells the story of, I asked him, why would you do this? And he said, I didn't do that. And Speaker Johnson says, you did. You signed this. And Biden says, I did no such thing. Right. Now, it was kind of taken like Biden maybe just didn't recall it, right? Which is a possibility.
Yeah. No.
Or Biden really didn't sign it, and somebody else did.
They saw they were. It was an abuse. Look at the cabinet meeting stopped happening within like 3 to 5 months. Imagine that. You have
cabinet members said they could go months, if not longer, without seeing him.
And without seeing him, with the exception of 4 or 5 of the higher end ones. That's why Marty Walsh is a play guy. He's not going to go say anything, but I know that's why he walked out. He said, why would you want to be Secretary of Labor? I mean, it's really, please.
Again, are you speculating or have you talked to Marty Walsh?
I'm speculating, but I'm just telling you from friends of mine that know him too.
That have talked to Marty Walsh.
I mean, who the hell wants me? I mean, I don't care. I mean, there's really not a lot, but it's not the most exciting job in the world. So anyways, but one thing you do is meet the president. You sit in the room with him every month, once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, but usually once a week, the cabinet meetings. He stopped down and said, I know he walked away. What's the benefit of being there for? There's no reason to be there. I mean, I don't want to do this job. It's like there isn't really much to that job anyways. I'll tell you one other thing, and I don't think you know this, but I can tell it, but I won't name the guy's name. Do you remember the whole concept of the campaign riding with Biden during the campaign?
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you that story?
No.
Do you know where it came from? It came from Biden and his best friend when they grew up in Pennsylvania. You get your license at 15 and a half in those days. Biden's family was poor. They couldn't afford the kid to have a car, but his next door neighbor, his best friend, had a car. And they used to drive Joe to school every day, this guy. And they were real good friends, and they used to kid around, call it riding with Biden, right? And they picked up that whole concept during the campaign. Well, not only were they best friends, but they both ended up going to school in Delaware. Then they went to law school in Delaware, and they built houses right next door to each other. Until maybe about 15 years ago or so, he came back and he took a job in Massachusetts. Then he ended up becoming a mayor of a major city.
In Massachusetts?
In Massachusetts.
Now you're making me guess.
And then he ended up becoming a town manager in a town hall. Of course, I knew the selectmen and stuff. And he still lives here in Massachusetts. And
Bob LeBlanc?
Nope. And he was very close to my oldest brother. And I went to dinner with him a couple of times because he wanted to meet me. And I don't want to say any more about it because I don't want to get the guy in a situation, but he lives here. And the last time I saw him before my brother died, we were having dinner down the Capitol Grill. Best potatoes in the world, by the way. You know that. Mashed potatoes, down in Burlington. And my older brother at the time, was very, very strong Republican, but he kept picking on him. I said, will you leave the guy alone? This is his friend now. And you understand friendship versus friggin' politics. He was being flown down from here to there every weekend. Every weekend to spend with Biden in the basement of the house because he was the only one that he would recognize. He told me that. That was like right at the beginning. The only one he could feel comfortable around and could remember stuff about his childhood when he was in a room. And after a certain amount of time, would recognize him before. And he said they were shooting him up with stuff. They're going to kill my friend. They're going to kill my friend. The stuff they're shooting up at him. And did you notice what Hurt did? That the guy, the prosecutor?
Yeah, the special prosecutor.
He kept them talking in the room till over an hour and 15 minutes, and they started getting nervous because after the hour and 15 minutes, the stuff started wearing off. That's what, I don't want to say his name, that's what he said to me. They were doing, that was 3 years. That was only the first year and a half into his administration. That's what he was doing. They were bringing him down to Delaware. Every weekend he was there. So it's somebody that he grew up with that he knew he could relate to, that he could also recognize. Someday I'll tell you.
If you had told me this
when the guy passes away, I'll tell you, but I don't want to say now he's still alive, you know. But
if you had told me this 10 years ago, I would have not believed you. So this is a spy novel.
See, I don't care if people believe me or not. I tell the truth, you know.
But
and you know what happens? Usually what I say, it comes out in books later.
Yeah, so based on what we've already learned, look, it's just May 20th.
Yeah.
We're February, March, April, May, 4 months.
Right.
From the end of the Biden presidency.
Right.
And we've already learned, we've seen the Tapper Ferguson tell-all book. We're going to see others. There will other aides that will start to make money off this because now the horse is out of the barn.
Yeah.
But now the cancer thing, the auto pen thing.
But it's out of the bond, but the public knew all along. They're not. This isn't really out of the bond.
There were some sheep who didn't know.
Well, they're not going to believe it still. They will not believe it.
They will not believe it.
There's the same ones that when Christ returns, he's going to make them get down on their knees, and they're going to say, "We still don't believe it." And he's going to make them gnash teeth and gnash bone. Gnashing the teeth. They're going to have to break their bones because he's going to down, and they're going to go down. There's people like that. What are you going to do?
But there are people who know. Mm-hmm. And knew, and still would deny it, still lied to the American people,
Right.
And still to this day, they're yelling about constitutional crisis with Donald Trump. I had a conversation with somebody telling me, "Oh, the Constitution, we're ripping up the Constitution." I'm like, dude, forget about Trump. Right in front of you, we're now hearing that somebody was using the presidential auto pen
to make executive orders. Yeah,
you want to talk about unelected bureaucrats? Remember all the crap they gave Elon Musk because they uncovered all the waste, abuse, and fraud.
Right.
He's an unelected bureaucrat. You had unelected
and that's what they're supposed to. That's what they're supposed to do.
Doing the job of the senile president of the United States.
That's what they're not supposed to do.
You want to talk about a constitutional crisis?
Right. You have limits on that and stuff like that. And by the way, the last real quick thing was when I was working for Chester, he had his first brain aneurysm. And this guy's daughter was an ambulance while she was going to school. And she calls her father, says, "Dad, I got Uncle Joe in the back. He's bleeding from the brain. I don't know if he's going to make it. I'm trying to get to the hospital as fast as I can with him." That was the first one. So he even told me that story. So, I mean, this stuff's been going on I feel bad for him, but they use this guy. And you want to talk about a constitutional crisis? You see the stuff coming out now about the Social Security number of our former president.
So
I mean,
we're going to save this for a different podcast with you and Marty Laurie.
Because I'm sorry, that's a constitutional crisis, and everybody knows it.
I'm just going to say to the sheeple out there, I mean, if you want to continue to, just be sheep, and if you want to continue to just,
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Just deal with the truth.
Just say, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?"
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. May
Just
I
deal
have
with the
another?
truth. I mean, it doesn't hurt.
Knock yourself out. But clearly this guy was not well. Clearly some unelected bureaucrat was running, because they didn't let Kamala anywhere near the...
So if they were acting...
They didn't let the VP anywhere near the auto pen, right?
Yeah, that's
because they couldn't even trust her to put her on the ballot when they... To say, Joe's going to walk away and we're going to put her at the top of the ballot. They couldn't even trust her for that until it was too late.
Right. And the thing is, like I said, if that whole thing was a display of dishonesty, what else were they doing? We know. We're going to find out about Fast and Furious. We're going to find out about all this stuff that's going to rock the people's socks. But next year, when these people are running for re-election, there's going to be a bunch of people. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of names we're going to be going, they're indicted too? For what? What'd they do? Oh, my God. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
As I said to you last Tuesday on Trigger 'em Tuesday, if they would lie to you about something you can see with your own eyes, like a congresswoman now indicted for facing charges for bumping an ICE agent, what else will they lie to you about?
What Diddy at the Diddy trial, they got them all watching Karen Reed, the poor thing down there. I'm not going to talk about that because I know the DA, and I can tell you a story about that.
You know Meatball Morrissey?
Do I know him? I knew him before when he was a state rep. He was sitting in the back room. Kevin Coughlin, all the guys. He was in the back room of Galvin's office when Galvin was a state rep. We can go into that another time.
So I didn't know you knew Meatball Morrissey.
As well as you.
Now we got to get you into our Karen Reed shows.
Well, the point I'm making is they're following that. At the same time, you hear the names that the sex slaves were mentioning on Diddy's thing. How many presidents did they name and first ladies? in a federal trial. Why isn't that on the? It's crazy. This stuff is gone. The whole party was hijacked, just like everything else. That's why I said it's not the party. It was hijacked by all these people.
Crazy, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I want to end just a couple of minutes remaining, but I want to talk about the president's foreign policy trip. I know you're very well-traveled, very learned. You're following this stuff forever. And you admitted today to actually interviewing with the CIA guy back in the 60s.
Well, that was
70s.
just,
All right.
70s, yeah.
70s.
No, I'm sorry, early 80, yeah. It was early 80. Because I had something.
Oh, it's getting more and more recent.
Because it was early 80s, but I remember it was after Nick, because I remember I went to a thing with the Navy, and they said, you know, your father was a pilot. I go, yeah, and they explained to me why my father was a night pilot in World War II. And then they said, why did you go to the CIA and take an... I said, what? You went to the CIA and took an exam, naval captain down in Boston. I goes, what? I just like, they're so connected. It's crazy.
Of course they are.
But anyways.
President Trump had a really, a fascinating way. It's too early yet to call it a successful trip, but it has the makings of being one of the most successful foreign policy trips forever. Right. First of all, getting a ton of investment from Qatar, Saudi Arabia,
$1 trillion?
United Arab Emirates, $2 trillion total.
Wow.
Now, a lot of that's going to end up being defense deals, so, you know, we can whoop-de-doo. But he's opening dialogue, and there was a little pushback today from Iran about something nuclear enrichment, but there's dialogue going on.
Right, yeah.
There's dialogue going on around Syria.
Right.
There's dialogue going on between Russia and Ukraine, and the president even talked about creating some kind of an economic partnership with Russia.
When was the last time you heard about Pakistan and India shooting at each other?
Pakistan and India, just 2 weeks ago they were, and then all of a sudden they've got some talks there.
They can't give any credit for that. I don't care what party the guy's in.
So the president is clearly working this stuff, and it struck me back in the fall of 2012, Barack Obama, Mitt Romney on a debate stage, and the question was asked, what is the biggest geopolitical threat to the United States of America?
Right.
And Willard Mitt Romney said, Russia.
That was the smartest thing I've ever heard him say.
And Barack Obama said, Mr. Governor, or whatever he was, the 80s called, they want their foreign policy back.
Right.
And then he turned to the host, said, China is the biggest geopolitical threat.
And he was right.
And but if you remember, go back to Bush Sr., he started bringing the fall of the Soviet Union and started bringing Yeltsin in. It was followed by Clinton. It was followed by G.W. Bush. You know, and I remember this clearly, folks. Don't take my word for it. Russia became part of the G8.
That's correct.
The West had started to welcome Russia.
That's right.
Into the tent.
Right.
And the idea was because, as Barack Obama said, China is the bigger geopolitical threat. It's no longer Russia. Russia is European. Russia is Western.
And Obama was right.
with Russia. Obama was right on that.
Yes, he was.
But something happened in 2014. Okay?
Yep.
And everyone will say, well, then Russia invaded Crimea. You talk to Russia, you get the Putin's point of view, who says the Americans started dicking around in Ukrainian elections and installing their puppets in there.
Right.
On top of that, you've got Hunter Biden and running around Burisma and doing all sorts of things.
And then they set up 11 biological labs on the border of Russia. If they were on the border of Mexico, we would have bombed Mexico.
And now, you know, all of a sudden, 25 years of not just détente with the Russians, but bringing them into the tent of the West went up in smoke.
Oh, yeah.
And now suddenly it's Russia. Russian interference in the 2016 election, Russian interference in 2024. Everything was, you know, another war with Ukraine, Russia. And I just see a current president who's like, wait a minute, these people can be brought in just like Obama, the 2 Bushes, and Clinton started to do.
And to go back to Burisma, who was on the board with Hunter?
Mitt Romney's kid.
And who else?
Pelosi?
John Kerry's kid.
Oh, Kerry's kid, that's right.
And when they started to see what was going on, I give them credit. The 2 of them got out.
Kerry and Romney's kid was smart enough to get away from Hunter.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but yeah.
So what do you make of the president's foreign policy? Is he, you know, with the tariffs and all that, is he trying to take down China's power and influence in the world?
Yeah, because China's very weak and feeble. This is the first guy they had that's charismatic in a way, you know? I mean, you look at him, he's a good-looking guy. He's got this whole thing going. He's been faking everything. I mean, first of all, they've been lying for years, telling us they got 1.2 billion people. I always wondered how they could fit them all on the East Coast, which is not much bigger than the American East Coast. And now they're starting to say that the real numbers in China are like 700 million. That there's all this crazy enclosed in society, all this craziness that's been going on has all been a lie. The British intelligence said it a couple of weeks ago too that there were about 700 million to find it out. The Russians even said that.
There was a video on Twitter the other day.
Yep.
This Chinese community. I don't know if it was a city or a town, but it was like 12 high-rise, but like huge high-rise. They imploded them all because nobody was living in them.
Because there's about 23 or 24 of those cities they built.
Yeah, they pre-built all these cities.
They're really, like you said, with high-rises all over the country. And you're supposed to believe that 95% of them live on the East Coast and only 3% live in the middle because there's nothing there. I mean, it's bad out there. There's no way you can fit 1.5 billion. I mean, I don't know what the game was.
About that? Are they trying to say this is what we have as a potential military?
Stuff. Yeah, I guess. I mean, yet they only have.
What's the point of lying?
Who the hell? It's all fraudulent. It's just like the guy in North Korea. I mean, he's got them believing. Remember the things with the Star Wars posters? He had the North Korean people who are stuck there believing that they really have Star Wars things flying around in space. It's all ancient communistic, socialistic propaganda. That's evil. I mean, it takes away the will. It takes away the will of the people to think for themselves and puts them in those thing where it's crazy.
Meanwhile, here in America, we've allowed our education system to brainwash kids to the point where nearly 40% of college students believe communism is a better system than capitalism.
Well, somebody told me a couple of weeks ago, and a kid says to me, he said, well, Jesus was a communist. He would have allowed everybody. No, he wasn't. Jesus was for people having free will. You're not allowed to have free will. Are you okay? God gave us free will. They don't give you free will.
Communist countries don't like religion because...
Well, they don't like free will. Walk away, But the thing is there was something else I was going to say on that. But, and like I said, the guy being... And I could tell you one quick story.
All right.
A friend of mine, Hung-Goon, good friend of mine. He's still in Boston. He's one ancient and honorable guy. Wired into the Chinese community in Boston. He worked for us. He worked for Galvin. He worked for a bunch of other people. He's very wide into it. He would go to China twice a year, and I tell him, I go, did you get a call from across the street yet when he come back? Yeah. The federal building, got to go over to JFK because he's CIA. We want to talk to him. He would go to China, like communist China all the time. He had a party and this big function. He asked me to bring Steve because Steve was Senate Ways and Means at the time, Panchasakas. So we go down to the Chinese thing in Wuhan, and he's got the ambassador, I think it was the ambassador from New York, from China, or it's the ambassador from Washington. Anyways, in walks the future Jing. Him. He was there. We met him. I go, wow, this guy's got a presence, and he was only the ambassador at the time. Now he's the president of China. And I reminded Stevie that a couple of weeks ago. You're right, that was him. Because I told you. Yeah, I know. But he was only the ambassador to, Chinese ambassador, I think New York City at the time, and he came up for this thing because Hung had a lot of pull. Chinatown in certain ways and certain things. But
what else are you holding out on me? Have you met Putin?
No. I don't think so. It's just the crowds, the things. I didn't sit in one office for one person. I mean, I was always working for other people. But if you're going to sit in one office, like I did for most of my time, was Secretary of State, that has the most traffic from it. It's like the town clerks. Everybody goes into the town hall, goes to the town clerk. Everybody comes to the state, goes to Secretary of State. And you're also the communication person. So that's why I was out at MEMA. We centered all the communication for all the state emergency stuff. So you met all these people from all over the planet, That's how I met Obama. Obama walked in that day into the bunker. What Governor Patrick was coming in first. He goes, go sit down. He goes, well, I'm going to get some, go sit down. I go, okay. And he was fun. He was a nice guy. But I mean, politically, I don't know. But he did some things good. But he's different to me. But he's going to have other issues, I think, because we're going to find out in the future. It's all starting to come out now. All
right. I'm going to bring you back for that. I'm going to bring you in with Marty Laurie for a discussion as well. Because that would be great. But, so I can't get over the fact that you actually had a meet. You admitted to having a meeting.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, the guy was Greek too.
So wait, Greg Pappas had a meeting at Tatsius's restaurant diner with a Greek guy representing the CIA.
Yeah. It was funny.
Well, how did our people become such like the dominant?
World War II. I mean, the OSS. I mean, even Julia Child, who was hanging out with a friend of my cousins across the street. She was OSS. People think she's just a cook. She was just OSS agent. You know, but yeah, but like I said, and then when I said to him about his nephew, he said that, goes, oh, I just said, oops. But, you know.
Love it.
Nothing.
All right. Great.
Yeah, I'll leave it at
Pappas.
that.
Thank you, as always,
Yeah, it
for
was
joining
fun.
us. We'll talk again in the coming week.
And I think Tom will put that thing together with
right, we're
tomorrow.
gonna-
I really do.
I'm going to work on getting Manager Golden in here.
Yeah, I think the manager will do well, yeah.
Thank you to Greg Pappas. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Inside Lowell Daily Pulse. Oh, wow. Covered a lot of ground there. One of my favorite shows, though. Loved it. Tomorrow, we're going to talk to our guest co-host, as always, on Wednesday, former Lowell Mayor Bill Samaras. City Councilor Corey Belanger will be here. We'll get his take on the latest ICC developments, especially after, I assume the manager will be discussing it either behind closed doors or on the council floor tonight with the councils. But again, look online, InsideLowell.com. You can read the story. We know a lot more about the future of not only the ICC, but a couple of other state buildings here in the city of Lowell, what the intended use is. On Thursday, Lowell School Superintendent Liam Skinner will join us. He faced some questions from the school committee regarding the budget. I got some questions for him regarding the budget as well. Then on Friday, it will be our 100th Daily Pulse episode. We kicked this off on January 6th with, I believe, none other than Greg Pappas. You were our first Daily Pulse.
Wow.
So on Friday, we'll have the Pod Squad. Mike Bacigalupo, Michaela Hondras McCarthy,
That's
a.k.a.
a fun one.
Batch and the Hyphen will be here as we'll celebrate our 100th episode of the Daily Pulse. It drops every day at noon here on InsideLowell.com. The Daily Pulse, taking a peek at the city of Lowell and the world around it. Till next time, everybody stay safe out there, and I'll catch you on the other side.